All right, so this is a weird one. This guy is known to have his pet theories, and be a bit dramatic. And his critics call him void of critical thinking and and other ad hominems. And I thought it was a bit weird, so I did some fact checking. And I'll pause it when I need to talk about it. Yeah.
Was first developed in a chemistry lab at Harvard University for the express purpose of burning Japanese cities, because Japanese cities were tinderboxes, cities made of wood.
That's what most houses back then were freaking made of, dummy. He's trying to say it, oh, it was specifically made for Japan.
It was tested in the Utah desert on a replica Japanese village.
And on, there was also a German town fabricated as well for testing purposes.
And they launched napalm raids on those houses and sat and observed and took notes on their stopwatches, noted how long it took for a firestorm to reduce those buildings to rubble. There was nothing about these attacks on Japan that came as a surprise to the military leadership.
Well, you see, in order to have a good firestorm, you had to have a high explosives as well. And even there were either 40% incendiaries or 10% incendiaries, depending on how much damage had already been done to the target. So you start with a mix of 1640, and then you work down and down and down your list of incendiaries. They don't have an unlimited number of incendiaries. In the March campaign in 1945, they hit 4 targets and used up all their stockpile of incendiaries in that raid, even using high explosives as well. So
We set a torch to every single major city in Japan that summer, with the exception of 2 cities, Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
and here's where I went, what? And I started to doubt what he was saying, because it was like they had a firestorm campaign, and then they dropped 2 bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And you're like, well, how many cities are there? Is Nagasaki and Hiroshima a major city? And, you know, and Hiroshima is actually, back in the day, it was the 7th largest city. It wasn't. There was one. There was six above it that had more than 500,000 people. When you get down to Hiroshima, the next rank below, it dropped down to 250,000 ish. And Nagasaki was ninth in rank in 1930, and then it doesn't even come up on 1940 census. But yeah, Nagasaki was within spitting distance of the Hiroshima population. Now, the list of cities hit in. I looked at the list, and it didn't include Nagasaki or Hiroshima. So he's right, surprisingly so. You read up about the one of the atomic bombs, and it chose a secondary city to hit with the atomic weapon. And I was like, oh, that's proof this guy's lying, because how could they have known it was going to be a secondary target for the atomic bomb? But that particular factoid could be a lie. Because that was Nagasaki. Why the hell wasn't Hiroshima hit? I mean, you hit all the major cities, and then you started on. You read it, and it says they started the campaign once they hit the major cities. They started to work down on the smaller cities. But why wasn't Hiroshima hit? But it took me an hour of fact checking just to make sure this guy was wrong, because I thought he was wrong at first. I was like, what are you talking about, you idiot? Of course they were probably hit, and they were probably partially damaged by firebombing campaign, and then they hit it with a nuke too. So whatever, shut up. But he's not wrong.
which we decided to drop a atomic bomb on. It's a scale of destruction almost unmatched in human history when napalm was first developed.
And that's the thing. He's not wrong. It's ghoulish. And it's kind of freaky because I follow history, and I wasn't blind to the bombing campaign in Japan and its horrible effects. Just like Dresden was in Germany, right? And it's ghoulish to have this be true. It's entirely ghoulish. It's awfully ghoulish. And it just, unfortunately, he's right. It's very ghoulish. It's gross. But yeah, I tried to falsify what he was saying, just to make sure he was on the level and talking truth. But yeah, it's plain to see. You see the list, and it's just, okay, Hiroshima wasn't selected as one of the targets. Why wasn't it? It's the 7th largest city in Japan at the time, and it stayed that way through the 1930s and 1940s. Yeah, it's ghoulish, isn't it? Yeah, it's entirely ghoulish. Yeah, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, since the 1900s, the beginning of the 20th century, had been a major city. But 250,000 at tops, at the time of World War II ish. But, it's still classified as in the top 10. So, yeah, it's pretty freaky when you realize it's not openly talked about, because yeah, it is freaking ghoulish. And the scary fact is that the the American occupation force suppressed the information about the effects of the atomic bomb to the populace, but they let the Americans know. It was, it's kind of funny how they were talking about, the wonders of free press, and they censored that. Pretty creepy, huh? Yeah, it's yeah, this guy might have his detractors, and it might seem like he's oversimplifying things, um, you know, but and he does a bit, but yeah, he's not scarily, he's not wrong. Ghoulish. And these are the people who stand behind Israel.